In this video, I'd like to talk about life in the Philippines, particularly life in the countryside of the Philippines. Because, well, recently I made a video about why you should reconsider moving to the Philippines and living in the Philippines. You could check that out here or here. But in this video, I feel like I should outline, even though there are issues with the Philippines that I did talk about in that video, I'd like to talk about why I still think the Philippines countryside is a pretty nice place and it's right for a lot of people. So life in the Philippines, people oftentimes think of it like regarding the city. So people think like crowded, a lot of like international people think of the Philippines as having a lot of like slums and stuff like this, very poor people. However, this isn't really all the Philippines has to offer. Personally, I actually like a lot of that environment, a lot of that part of the Philippines. It gives it kind of character, and the people there are very nice. But even regardless of this, that's not all the Philippines has to offer. In the cities, you do have big places like BGC, Bonifacio Global City, I believe it's called. This is in Manila, by the way. And well, the life there is not at all like the rest of the Philippines. You have like everything's more luxury. It's more like a business district, it feels like. So things are very organized, things are very clean, things are actually really quiet and all of this. But personally, that's not really the part of the Philippines I'd like to talk about. It's simple. You can find a lot of information about BGC online. If it interests you, check them out. But in this video, really, I would like to talk more about countryside. So anyhow, how is countryside and island life like in the Philippines? This is really the Philippines a lot of people don't really think of too much. And well, my experience, I went to a few different islands in the Philippines. I stayed in the countryside for probably, I don't know, well over a month in different parts of the Philippines. So anyhow, one example would be in one of my favorite places we went was a couple hours southeast of Manila. They had like a marathon out there supporting like a orphanage, and me and my wife and a couple friends went out there and well ran the marathon. And to prepare for this, as well as to stay out there, we had to rent a house. So we rented a house for, I don't know, about a week or so, and basically the living environment out there is really peaceful. Like in the city, in Manila, you might get loud noises, motorbikes, loud trucks or buses. In this area, this small town, you don't get any of this. When you go out there a couple hours in the countryside, you're not getting any of this. On the main roads, yeah, sure, of course, there's some passing traffic and all of this, but it doesn't affect you. And if you're living out there in a house or an apartment, you're not going to really hear these noises much. It's very peaceful, it's very quiet. And not just at like your residence, of course. Like we were living right at like the edge of one of these small towns, and well, we would walk in and they'd have a market in the center of the town. So walk in, walk over there to the market. It's not too loud. Everything's not too crazy. They got extremely fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as one thing I wasn't really expecting was they had like fresh tofu and soy products, as well as of course meat, if that interests you. But you know, they had all sorts of very fresh produce, and it was actually really high quality. So my expectations were quite low going to the countryside. I was hopeful, but my expectations were quite low because I was just staying in Manila for a couple weeks prior. And just the experience in Manila, you don't have a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables and all of this sort of stuff, especially in BGC because most of the stuff's like imported and like supermarket stuff. But when you go a couple hours out in the countryside, man, the fresh fruits and vegetables are some of the best. Better than Thailand, in my opinion. The quality, I mean. Like, Thailand, you might have some more variety in terms of what you can get, but in the Philippines, the quality is better, I feel like. Like, the fruits are sweeter, the vegetables have a stronger taste, like onions really punch you in the face. So, like, I really like that. The fresh fruits and vegetables, the food, even having fresh tofu that people hand make and stuff is just really great. Yeah, that's one thing I love about countryside life in the Philippines. Another thing I really like is the price. So the quality for a price you get in the countryside of the Philippines is really actually good. So like that small town we went to do the marathon and booked a week there, I think it was like a couple $100s or something for a week, but it was like a 2-3-bedroom house with a kitchen, a yard, parking, everything, right next to like where we wanted to be. And of course there was a marathon going on, so like some other houses and stuff were already booked. Well, we booked like almost last minute, so our price was probably a little inflated. Well, anyhow, I talked to the owner there and stuff. Me and my wife did because we really liked the place. We could see ourselves living there over a month, just enjoying, relaxing, all of this. And apparently, just for this 2-3-bedroom house, really like clean, really clean standards and stuff, tile floors. I don't know, it was very nice. The kitchen was nice, had everything you would need. Small living room as well, of course. It was gonna be, I think it was right around $500 a month to $600 a month, and this was just renting 1 month. We found the house through Airbnb originally. It was gonna be a bit more, but because we were considering staying multiple months, we talked with the host, and that's what about the range she gave. So that's including electricity, water, as well as some other services and stuff. So overall, if you're from the Philippines, you might say like, oh, that's outrageous for a house in the countryside, something like this. But you have to understand, foreigners, like, of course, I'm not local to the town, anything like that. As well as just, quite frankly, we didn't look around at all. This is just one example how easy it was to find a place that, for the price, was actually exceptional. Like, if you want a place like that in a lot of different places, like if you wanted that in Thailand, say in Phuket or something, you would be paying, I don't know, at least 2-3 times the price for a similar situation. So the Philippines countryside is relatively affordable for what you're getting. Is it super affordable for locals? Not always, but if you're a foreigner, you're coming in, you're planning to stay there, it is actually relatively affordable. And speaking of the price of things, the price of like vegetables and fruits also and stuff are really quite standard, pretty cheap on a relative sense. Like compared to Thailand, they're quite a bit cheaper in the Philippines. So like you're getting pretty good value for what you're paying for fruits, vegetables, food broadly, as well as of course, as I already mentioned, housing. So yeah, let's move on. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the air quality. So the air quality in Manila, as I mentioned in that previous video I made a few weeks ago, the air quality in the cities appear good, but they're not really good. In the countryside, the air quality sometimes appears bad on like air quality sensors, but it's actually pretty good. So the only issue in the countryside of the Philippines is sometimes someone will burn like crops or like trash or something like this, but it's not actually very common. So our experience, like when we went to that mountain town and stuff and did the race, like the air quality was exceptional. It was like truly exceptional, near perfect air quality. The entire time we were up there. Is it always like that? Well, no, but that's still, it's near Manila, but apparently talking with the host of the house and other people in the village, apparently like 8-9 months a year, it's perfectly blue skies just like that. Well, blue skies in terms of pollution, sometimes there's clouds of course, but otherwise like perfect air quality. So that's another thing. Countryside in the Philippines, everywhere we went pretty much throughout the Philippines. I'm just talking about one specific place because it's what I already mentioned, but everywhere in the Philippines, in the countryside, the air quality is actually pretty good. As long as you're in a true countryside town. If you're in like Baguio in the north, like a medium-sized city, the air quality might not be the best. But if you're a little bit away from that, anywhere along the coast, any of the islands, the air quality is really quite good. Like you're not gonna get sick from it. You're not gonna really feel the negative effects of the air quality. It's one of the only places where I felt like most places in Southeast Asia, I feel like I need an air filter, including the cities in the Philippines, in the north, like Manila. However, in the countryside in the Philippines, I did not feel this. So this was, yeah, that just shows how clean the air is. And now enough with the like material aspects of the Philippines that you might not really have been thinking of. Now I'd like to talk about the people. So one thing I noticed in all of these countryside places is, as well as in the city actually, throughout the Philippines, one thing I really appreciate is that people are really hardworking and pretty honest. So like the entire time we were in the Philippines, I don't think we encountered a single like real scam. Like, okay, sometimes you buy something, it seems like the price was maybe slightly inflated because you're a foreigner, but this is present in all countries. This isn't a scam. This is just doing business. Foreigner, it's harder to communicate, they don't buy as much usually, you're not going to see them again. This is standard practice in every country anywhere. But generally that didn't even happen. Usually we got the same price as locals, and everything was just, there was no scams. People are hardworking and they're helpful. And that's what I really like. And this is especially, like it's true in Manila, in other big cities as well, it feels like. But when you go to the countryside, you really see it more. Because a lot of these shops are, most shops are owned by the owner or their family. Like the workers there are family members or they're like the owner themselves. So like they work really hard, they're honest. It's something I really appreciate. It provides a feeling of like relative safety. In the Philippines, you don't really feel under threat no matter where you are in the countryside or even in the city, to me. Like you can go to the poorest area in the city, an area people would call a slum or whatever. To me, these areas have some of the best people actually. They're very friendly, they're very honest, they're extremely hardworking, and yeah, they're very kind. Like, well, what is there to say? Like, yeah. So this is present throughout all of the Philippines. I really experienced in the south, like Mindanao and stuff. A little less friendly maybe sometimes, but compared to other countries like the Philippines, like it's called the land of, or is it called the land of smiles? I think that might be Thailand. But anyhow, the Philippines is far more smiley, happy, and enjoyable in that sense than Thailand or really any other country in Asia. People are just much more friendly, open, kind, hardworking, all of it. So it's one of the best things about the Philippines. And I want to be clear about this, like the people are extremely caring and helpful in the Philippines. Like if you get lost or you have any sort of issue, people will help you out and they'll genuinely want to help you out. It's not like some pretend thing like you get in some countries. Like the people are actually genuinely helpful and caring. They want you to have a good experience in the Philippines. So like one example, the host in that small town we went to do the marathon. When we got there, we told her we were doing the marathon with the orphanage and all this sort of stuff and asked her a couple questions. Of course, very helpful and friendly and stuff. She ended up actually asking like, oh, what type of food do y'all eat, like cook and all this stuff. And we shared a little bit of food with her. And well, the next day we did the marathon, came back and stuff. And she was like, oh, hey, y'all are exhausted. Y'all gonna take a nap, blah, blah, blah. Like we talked about before. And she was like, oh, hey, I'm gonna cook y'all like lunch or dinner or something like this. She cooked this huge meal just because she wanted to like help out and just be friendly, just be helpful. They're very caring about us. Like Filipino people like to share food. They like to just share experiences. They're really carefree, happy-going people. The only people who really compare in terms of like sheer friendliness and kindness, in my experience traveling to really all over the world, would be Nepali people. Nepali people also, like if there's any Nepalis watching this video, y'all got great people too. Very friendly, very helpful, very kind, very they help people out. You feel safe around. It's the same in the Philippines. Like Philippines, really, honestly, I've talked about it enough, I guess, but really some of the best people in the world in all of these senses. Caring, helpful, courteous, hardworking, everything you could really want. So yeah, like I like Filipino people. And I guess that's enough for the people. Let's talk about, it's not busy in the countryside. Like this might be obvious to you, but some countrysides, like in India, the countryside is an absolute mess. It's busy, it's still chaotic, it doesn't feel like a countryside and relaxing. In the Philippines, people in the countryside truly know how to enjoy life. They will relax quite a bit. They don't rush themselves too much. Nothing's too busy, but things still get done. People still work. Like it's a nice balance where you feel relaxed and people are happy and carefree, but you're not stressed out or having any of the issues of people being carefree. So certain countries in Europe as well as Latin America, people are carefree, but in a way where you just can't get things done. In the Philippines, it seems like people are carefree, they're enjoying, they're relaxing, but if you need to get something done, so like if you need to get medication because you're sick, you can get that done. If you need to get like data like topped up on your SIM card, you can also get that done. In certain countries, even these simple things can be issues because of how much people, I don't know, they're not as hardworking. In the Philippines, like I said, people are very hardworking. You're not going to really have any problems getting stuff done, even despite it not being busy and it being a very relaxing, peaceful environment in the countryside. So this is one thing I really like. Some people have complained, I've seen online before going to the Philippines that, oh, it's hard to top up SIM cards and different things in the Philippines, but this wasn't really my experience. Honestly, I think it's just people didn't, like first off, you can top up a SIM card online in the Philippines. It's actually relatively convenient. So really you just have to ask someone who's Filipino who can pay with the online app thing and just give them some money. They will help you out. Like a lot of the barriers to entry in the Philippines are regarding just the payment system. I think GCash it's called. This makes things a little difficult if you're a foreigner and don't have residency, but otherwise things are very easy. And the next thing I'd like to talk about is the nature in the Philippines. So in the city it's terrible, you're not going to really have any nature at all, but when you go a couple hours out of the cities or to the proper countryside, you're like surrounded by nature. Not all of it, to be clear, not all of it is easily, like, you can't hike or trek through a lot of nature like you can in some countries. However, it's there, it's nice to walk by, and there are some camping or hiking trails and stuff like this. It's just not as common as you might expect. But they still have tons of nature, and it provides a good atmosphere and a good, like, way of life. You see nature, I don't know, personally to me, when I see trees and greenery, I feel more relaxed, I feel more at peace, homey. And the countryside in the Philippines, you got plenty of that, no matter if you're on the islands or if you're in the mountains or wherever it might be in the Philippines. But that's the other thing. The last thing I really want to talk about more is, everything I kind of mentioned is regarding just broadly in the Philippines, in the countryside. So, like, couple hours any direction outside of Manila, anywhere near a little bit outside Baguio, this sort of area. But I haven't really specifically talked about the islands. So the islands, most people I think would actually prefer the islands. The islands, you still get a lot of those like fresh vegetables and fruits and all this sort of stuff. However, any prices aren't actually much, much higher like you would expect. Of course, if you go to a tourist town or a tourist area and stay in a tourist hotel, it's going to be more expensive. But if you don't, it's really not that expensive. Or if you go during off season, so I think we went during, I think it was like late February. The islands are fantastic then. Yeah, sure, you get a little bit of rain in the evenings or something like this. That's very heavy, but it's not unsafe. There's less people, less tourists. Prices are lower. It's much nicer. People seem friendly. I haven't been to the Philippines during like peak season, tourist season, but that time of the year was exceptional. Around late February, early March, this sort of time frame. But anyhow, island life in the Philippines is really good. And like, a lot of islands anywhere, you go to the islands in Thailand, honestly, you're finished. All you can do is stay at your hotel and go to the restaurant, eat, and the beach. In the Philippines, islands, because Filipino people actually live on these islands and they're like part of the economy, they actually have stuff. So like one example, one town we went to was Porto Galera or something like this. I don't know, it's right, I don't know, maybe you take a 3 or 4 hour bus ride down to a port south of Manila, and then you take a small ferry for like an hour and you're there. This place was like, you still had access to most of the goods you would care for. The supermarket was well stocked, it had a lot of stuff, enough to cook and do everything with. The place we stayed in, most places I saw there actually, or a lot of them, had like kitchens you could cook at. You had a market not too far away, fresh vegetables, fruits, everything. You even had a lot of frozen stuff. So, like I've said before on the channel, my wife's Chinese. I also am Chinese, pretty much. I love Chinese food. I love noodles. I love dumplings, all this sort of stuff. You might think of Chinese food as well as more Chinese food. But anyhow, they have all the, like they had lots of imported like frozen dumplings, either from Korea or from China. So they had lots of variety in this regard too. Like if you don't want to just eat standard like meat, vegetables, fruits and stuff and grains, or Filipino diet as well, you can even get some imported stuff on these islands. Mostly it's going to be restricted to Asian food, of course, but you can, and the price isn't really too big. Why is it like this? Honestly, I'm not too sure. They had a lot of like imported Chinese products at a lot of the supermarkets and different islands we went to. I don't know if there's like Chinese companies working in the Philippines, so they have like workers there, or just Filipinos like Chinese products as well. I'm not really too sure, but they had quite a bit more than I was expecting. It made life there much more convenient and much more easy. But that's pretty much everything I mentioned in the video about countryside life also applies to the islands. But the islands have better nature, in my opinion. You have, of course, the beach, you have better mountains you can get to that are hikeable, and just the environment, it's like everything about the countryside is even more intensified on the island. So it's even more peaceful. People are oftentimes even more relaxed. And like that's one thing I appreciated on the islands. When you go, I expect islands to be like, quite frankly, miserable tourist places. And if Thailand, you go to the islands, all of the like taxi, tuk-tuk, all these sort of drivers are usually quite aggressive. They're not very friendly. They're not very kind. In the Philippines, they don't try to scam you. They don't really, they're not like aggressive. They're not mean. Nothing like this. Like they're there, you want to ride, they got it. It's quite simple. And they all charge like a standard, more or less fixed price or relatively fair price I don't know, I think for like a 20-30 minute ride from the port, it costed us, I don't know, I forget the exact figure, but it was less than $5. In Thailand, if you were doing something like this on one of the islands, even if it was one of the bigger developed islands like Phuket, you'd be paying at least $10, at least 300 baht, at least 400 baht for this. But yeah, life in the Philippines might not really be what you were expecting, especially after, if you saw my last video talking about why you should reconsider living in the Philippines. I was mostly talking about cities there, and you might think like, whoa, is this what life in the Philippines is like? Or no, only really the cities. You go to the countryside, you go to the islands, life is much, much different. I'd still stay away from some of the tourist towns on the islands. However, most of the islands and most of the towns on the islands are not tourist towns. They are very enjoyable, they're very peaceful, they're for Filipinos, and people are hardworking, honest, kind, and caring. It's one of the places where, one of the actual best places I can think of to, like, personally me, I will likely go back to the Philippines in the future, but instead of trying to get residency and actually live there, like I kind of planned to before, I will just simply be a tourist, stay a few weeks on an island or in the countryside, and go home. Why? Well, for reasons I outlined in the video why you should reconsider living in the Philippines. To me, I prefer having a lot of conveniences that unfortunately aren't really available in the Philippines, but that's part just because I eat vegetarian, I enjoy certain hobbies that aren't as common, I have certain priorities that make life in the Philippines a little more difficult. If you have any thoughts or questions about living in the countryside of the Philippines, feel free to leave those down below. But with that being said, that's the video. So have a good bye. Bye bye.